So Uranus in Gemini is about to change the global money system, almost certain, based on these astrology cycles. So Uranus will first enter Gemini July 2025 and finally leave Gemini for Cancer in May 2033. So we're talking 2025, 2033, a good 8 years of Uranus in Gemini. We've seen recent stories. Janet Yellen came out in June saying Americans should anticipate a decline in the US dollar as the world's reserve currency. She didn't say it would cease to be important, just that it would be lessened in terms of its dominance. And so the Treasury Secretary comes out and says dollar dominance is waning. Big story, big deal. That was June 2023. Talk of CBDCs everywhere. I mean, every country from Russia to India to China to America to Britain has talked about bringing in a digital version of their currency or a CBDC. World Bank has talked about CBDCs. We've seen increasing stories about stablecoin regulation, where governments will incorporate stablecoins, which is a form of cryptocurrency, into their regulatory system. So it basically gives an imprimatur of approval for digital currency by governments. That's all happening this year in terms of the stories we're seeing. So this supports the idea that the 8-year period of Uranus and Gemini we're about to endeavor into 2025, 2033, we're primed here. The table's being set for major transformation of the money system and banking system. It's supported also by the history of the transit. Uranus was in Gemini, 1606, 1614. In 1609, the Bank of Amsterdam is founded. This is the first public bank in Europe, and many call it the first central bank. 1609, Uranus in Gemini. When Uranus was in Gemini in 1690 to 1698, what do we get in 1694? The Bank of England is founded. This is almost certainly the first modern central bank. It's the model which most central banks in our current epoch are based on. The Bank of England, founded during Uranus and Gemini. Uranus and Gemini, 1774, 1782. What do you get in 1775? The Continental Congress establishes the continental currency, which is the first national currency of the United States, the budding United States at this time. They had declared independence. The Revolutionary War was going on. They had to adapt with the money system, and they did. And then in 1781, the Continental Congress establishes the Bank of North America. This was the first bank in the United States, the first de facto central bank in the United States. So again, these themes of firsts relating to banks and central banks, government money systems, all with Uranus and Gemini. You see Uranus and Gemini 1858 to 1866, that 8-year period of Uranus and Gemini. And what do we get? We get in 1861, the US government issues paper currency, fiat currency, called the greenback. Very famous in American history circles because the greenback was Lincoln disconnecting the money system from redemption and bullion, gold and silver. And it's this idea that the sovereign can deploy paper and have money that's disconnected from anything, and the notion of sovereign or fiat money. 1863, the National Banking Act in America again creates a new system of national banks in the United States. This has lasting impact, this legislation, on the way that banks operate in the US still today. Again, Uranus and Gemini, the greenbacks, the National Banking Act, very important for the legacy of money and banking in America. Uranus and Gemini, 1941 to 1949, that 8-year period, the last one we've lived through until the one that will arrive here in 2025. What do we get in 1944? The Bretton Woods Agreement is signed, establishing the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, establishing the World Bank. Those institutions still are core for the way that money flows in the modern global system that we're in. Different currencies being traded amongst themselves, settlement of various currencies. They're designed to help stabilize the global financial system. Of course, there's heavy critiques of the IMF as kind of a giving countries this kind of cycles of debt and stealing wealth. So this is not just all rosy. There's some darker sides to this stuff. The point is these things come online during Uranus and Gemini, and we're about to have Uranus and Gemini again. 2025, 2033, look for some kind of new institution, new banking structure, big changes on the front of money, banks, and currency. It's gonna come right here on the cusp of it.